Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel, Shirley TV. Today I want to go over this lawsuit. This lawsuit, Cassandra Ventura uh, versus Sean Combs of Bad Boy Entertainment. On this channel, I will be covering a lot of, you know, legal cases in the news, current legal cases, business topics, business cases on this channel, Shirley TV. So just want to go over this this complaint. It's a complaint at the same time a lawsuit. So just want to go over this, and it's 35 pages. 35 pages, but I just want to see what's in it. I want to analyze it. I want to see what's in it. I know the lawsuit has been settled, so I want to go over that as well. United States District Court of the Southern District of New York, Cassandra Ventura versus Sean Combs of Bad Boy Entertainment. So let's just see what this complaint is about. It says plaintiff Cassandra Ventura hereby alleges as and for her complaint against defendant Sean Combs, Mr. Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC, and Doe Corporations, together defendant corporations, and together with Mr. Combs, defendants as follows. So Mr. Sean Combs, is I guess you could say entrepreneur, business man, has a lot of different businesses. So he has Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, that's 2, Epic Records, 3, Combs Enterprises, 4. Combs Enterprises LLC, that's 4, and the Doe corporations. So they have plurals. It has corporations, Doe corporations. So let's go to the preliminary statement. Preliminary statement. Defendant Sean Combs is a rapper and record executive, popularly known by his stage names Puff Daddy, P Diddy, or Diddy. Mr. Combs came to fame in the early 1990s with his record label Bad Boy Records. He rose to prominence in the music and entertainment industry over the decades and is regularly referred to as a hip-hop mogul. Number 2, in 2022, Mr. Combs received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the BET Awards. During his acceptance speech, Mr. Combs stated, "I had to give a special shout out, thank you, love, to the people that was really there for me." He named a number of people before adding, and also Cassie for holding me down in the dark times, love. So number 3, I'm not going to read all of this, but I want to just get to some of the important points. The truth, however, is that Cassie, Miss Cassandra Ventura, was held down by Mr. Combs and endured over a decade of his violent behavior and disturbed demands. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse. Some words I might, I guess I would say, I won't say some of those words, some of the words that are on here, because this will be on my YouTube channel, Shirley TV. So it says, Miss Ventura, her doc. So in other words, when he gave his speech, he called a lot of people's names, and then he mentioned Cassie's name at the end. So I never really knew Cassie, never heard anything about her, but I just, once this lawsuit came out, then this is the only way I found out about her and their situation. So, a lot of times I don't keep up with everything that's going on in the news, but this was on everybody's channel. So I said, why not cover it on my channel? Because I did want to see exactly what this lawsuit entails. Because presently I am taking a couple of law courses with Coursera.org, and I also have a degree in information systems and a degree in business administration. So I did take a business law class, and I am very intrigued with the law. I like a lot of law terms. I just like to study. So I am taking a couple of law classes at this time. I look at a course called International Law. I think it was an International Law, and then it's an American Law course. So it's two courses. Then I'm taking a machine learning course and an artificial intelligence course as well. So let me finish. So it says, so in other words, this is number 3. Cassie wasn't feeling it when he mentioned her in the speech. When he was, getting his award, receiving his award. He said Cassie held him down in dark times. But then Cassie is saying, that according to this lawsuit, her dark times were the times that he was, harsh with her. So it says, for Miss Ventura, the dark times, right? He said Cassie held him down. He said Cassie held him down in his dark times, but she said, according to her dark times, it was different. Her dark times were those she spent trapped in a cycle of abuse, violence, and ex-African, among other violent and unlawful acts. Mr. Combs aped her, Miss Ventura, in her own home after she tried to leave him. Often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and bleeding. He also forced Miss Ventura to engage with EX workers, while some of the words I'm not gonna say. So he forced her, and filmed the encounters. Ran out of his apartment with a arm in pursuit of a rival industry executive whom he learned was nearby. So in other words, he ran out of his apartment. I guess he was chasing her when she ran out. So that's Miss Cassie. Demanded that Miss Cassie Ventura to carry his in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is. So Mr. Combs introduced Miss Ventura to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse, and required her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addictions. Number 4, Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in 2005 when she was 19 years old. So he met her when she was 19, and he was 37. He signed her to his label, Bad Boy Records, and within a few years lured Miss Ventura into an ostentatious, fast-paced and drug-fueled lifestyle, and into a romantic relationship with him, her boss, one of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry, and a vicious, cruel, and controlling man nearly 2 decades her senior. So according to Miss Cassie Ventura, she met him when she was 19. He said he was going to sign her to his label, so signed her to the label, and basically signed her to the label, and she was introduced into a world that she never thought that she would be in. So a world of fast-paced, drug-fueled lifestyle, and into a romantic relationship. That he was supposed to be the boss, supposed to be helping her with her, her music. She was signed to his label, so he was supposed to have given her, a better future, a brighter future, So, hey, in other words, I'm going to, sign you to my label, and it's just going to be up from here. but instead she went down into a world and a lifestyle that she could not even imagine. Yes, a lifestyle that was, a drug-fueled lifestyle, something that she would not have expected. That is not the route or direction she wanted her life to go in. So Mr. Combs asserted complete control over Miss Ventura's personal and professional life, thereby assuring her inability to escape his hold. He provided unprecedented avenues for success for the aspiring artists, but in return demanded obedience, loyalty, and silence. So in other words, she was introduced into his world. She had to do what he wanted her to do. So he demanded obedience. So she had to follow his rules, and be loyal and be silent. In other words, she might have witnessed some things, or she had to go through some things. He was beating on her, according to this lawsuit. Everything in the lawsuit, I guess we would say, is allegedly, but so she had to be loyal and be silent. Number 6, throughout their relationship, Mr. Combs was prone to uncontrollable rage and frequently beat Miss Ventura savagely. These beatings were witnessed by Mr. Combs' staff and employees of Bad Boy Entertainment and Mr. Combs' related businesses, but no one dared to speak up against their frightening and ferocious boss. Number 7, following these episodes of horrific abuse, Mr. Combs would immediately attempt to hide Miss Ventura and the evidence of his violent rage. Excuse me. He often showered her with gifts following incidents of physical violence, a typical pattern of behavior by serial abusers. So, in addition to the physical assaults, Mr. Combs frequently reminded Miss Ventura of his ability to cause serious harm, whether by requiring her to carry his gun in her purse, or by blowing up the car of a musician that was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. Number 9, adding insult to injury, Mr. Combs used illegal substances and threats of violence to force Miss Ventura into repeated, unwanted encounters with male workers. So some of the words I will not be saying. So YouTube does have a strict policy on these words. Over the years that Mr. Combs abused Miss Ventura physically, and she again and again tried to escape his tight hold over her life. So she tried to escape the tight hold over her life, but sometimes it is kind of hard to get out, especially if you don't have nowhere to go, you don't have no money, and then you're so scared that you don't know if he's going to hunt you down and hurt you and your family. So a lot of times they do have these 800 numbers that you can call, that you can get help, and they make it put you up in a shelter at an undisclosed location, But, so let me read on. So this is number 10 of the lawsuit, Cassie Ventura against Mr. Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. Every time she hid, Mr. Combs' vast network of corporations and affiliated entities found her, and those who worked for Mr. Combs' companies implored her to return to him. Many went as far as to explicitly state that her failure to return to Mr. Combs would hinder her success in the entertainment industry. So constantly telling her things that would scare her. So let me make sure this is all the way over so you can see all the words. Okay, so number 11, when she believed that she had finally separated from her longtime abuser, she joined Mr. Combs for a dinner, after which he forced her into her home, and while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. Number 12, Miss Ventura has now fully escaped Mr. Combs, but the harm that the assaults and abuse he caused her to experience for nearly a decade will forever haunt her. So she experienced this for, what, she said 10 years? 10 years of abuse. So now she decides that she, had enough, and she's tired of keeping silent. She wants the world to know, and also this will help other victims that may be dealing with him, or in their own relationships, that they are in with other men. This will help other women, say to themselves, hey, I must get out. I have to get out. Because at this point, he don't care about me. He doesn't love me. I want to get out. So, okay, so this is number 12. She has required extensive medical and psychological care to recover from the trauma she lived through. She cannot, however, continue to live in silence about what she endured. Mr. Combs remains immensely powerful and immensely dangerous. Miss Ventura therefore seeks justice for the decade of her life that Mr. Combs took away from her with threats of violence, excessive use of drugs, physical and psychological abuse, and some kind of slavery. According to Miss Ventura, accordingly, Miss Ventura brings this action seeking injunctive, declaratory, and monetary relief against defendants in violation of federal African laws, the New York State Human Rights Law, New York Civil Rights Human, the New York City Human Rights Law, New York City, and then we have the Gender Motivated Violence Act, New York City, and then they have the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking, the California Abuse and Cover-Up Accountability Act, and the California Trafficking Victims Protection Act of California. Then we have the jurisdiction and venue. So this court has jurisdiction pursuant to 28 U.S.C. and 1343 as this action asserts violations of 18 U.S.C. And therefore raises federal questions regarding the deprivation of plaintiffs' rights. The court has supplemented jurisdiction over plaintiffs' related claims arising under state and city law pursuant to 28 U.S.C. Pursuant to 28 U.S.C., venue is proper in this court because a substantial part of the events of or missions giving rise to this action, including the unlawful. Let's go to we're on 17. Plaintiff Cassandra Ventura is a resident of the states of California and Connecticut and was employed by defendants Bad Boy Records, LLC, and Bad Boy Entertainment, and related entities. Okay, Ms. Ventura met the definition of an employee. She met the definition of an employee of defendants under all relevant statutes. So she was an employee of Bad Boy Records, LLC. So he had a limited liability company and Bad Boy Entertainment. Defendant Sean Combs, upon information and belief, resides within the state of California. At all relevant times herein, Mr. Combs met the definition of an employer, a plaintiff under all relevant statutes. So all relevant statutes, all relevant laws. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment is a music, media, entertainment company founded by defendant Sean Combs, which includes a record label defendant Bad Boy Records, LLC, at all relevant times. Defendant was an employer, a plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. So we're on number 20, so I'm not going to read all of them. I'm just trying to read the most important ones. Defendant Bad Boy Records, LLC is a Delaware limited liability company. So Bad Boy Records is a LLC. Bad Boy Records, LLC is a Delaware limited liability company. Right, LLC, limited liability company with a principal place of business located in New York, New York. At all relevant times, defendant was an employer or plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Defendant Epic Records is a New York-based record label owned by Sony Music Entertainment, a subsidiary of Sony Corporation of America. At all relevant times, defendant was an employer of plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Defendant Combs Enterprises, LLC, is a New York limited liability company at all relevant times. Defendant was an employer of plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Defendant Doe Corporation, so they just outlining his businesses. Defendant Doe Corporations, 1 to 10, are corporations and entities affiliated and associated with defendants Sean Combs and the defendant corporations. At all relevant times, defendant Doe Corporations, 1 through 10, were employers of plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Then we have the factual allegations. So when she signed with Mr. Combs, she was 19, so teenage Miss Ventura meets middle-aged Mr. Combs as her career begins. So everything is laid out. It's a nice, well put together lawsuit, you know. So teenage Miss Ventura meets middle-aged Mr. Combs. She was 19 when she met him. So Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in the late 2005 or early 2006 after Mr. Combs heard Miss Ventura's first single playing in a club and expressed interest in signing her to his label, Bad Boy Records. At the time, Miss Ventura was 19 years old and Mr. Combs was 37. Within months, in February 2006, Miss Ventura signed a 10-album deal with Mr. Combs' record label. So she was 19. She signed a 10-album deal with Mr. Combs' record label. Miss Ventura's first album, Cassie, was released in August 2006, debuting at number 4 on the U.S. Billboard 200. To promote the album, Miss Ventura made television appearances on MTV's Total Request Live and BET's 106 & Park. Miss Ventura suffered from significant performance anxiety during these appearances, and press outlets were highly critical of Miss Ventura's performances on these shows. So in other words, it started to affect her when she had to do her performances on some of these shows. In other words, she's at the same time, her allegations that she were, beaten on several occasions, it began to affect her performances when she had to perform. So in other words, when she made her, I guess I could say when she, when her albums were released. So she had her album, they said August 2006. In other words, then she had to go and probably promote the music. So you have an album, you go and promote it, you're doing different venues, performing at different venues, and then it began to affect her performances because she was allegedly being beaten. But so Mr. Combs, however, sought to rehabilitate his newly signed talent, telling MTV, "You could hear the nervousness in her voice, and to be honest, I kind of smiled at it because it made me really appreciate what I really love about her. She's a regular person. It just made me appreciate that she got nervous, and it was kind of cute to me, to be honest." So this is the news. So this is Mr. Combs, however, sought to rehabilitate his newly signed talent, telling MTV News. So this is what Mr. Combs is telling the news. So in other words, he said he could hear the nervousness in her voice. And to be honest, he said, I kind of smiled at it because it made me really appreciate what I really love about her. So I'm not going to read all that, but so it says, while clearly paternalistic in noting that it was cute to him how regular Miss Ventura appeared. Mr. Combs' comments rang true to some extent. Upon signing with Bad Boy Records, Miss Ventura was quickly thirsting to the spotlight. She was thirsting to the spotlight and was unfamiliar with how to navigate her new celebrity status. Mr. Combs recognition and glorification of Miss Ventura's naivete proved to set the groundwork for his manipulative and coercive romantic and certain type of relationship with Miss Ventura, Miss Cassie Ventura, a woman nearly 2 decades his junior. So she was 19. She was 19. I think they said he was 37. Yeah, he was 37 when she first signed with Bad Boy Entertainment during hair and makeup leading up to the performance. So in other words, she had different performances and she getting her hair and makeup done. Miss Ventura's hairstylist, Mr. Combs' makeup artist, told Miss Ventura that Mr. Combs was interested in Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura shrugged off the gossip and in fact expressed disgust given the large age gap between her and the president of her record label, emphasizing the age and power dynamic early on their working relationship. Mr. Combs positioned himself as a father figure and protector of Miss Ventura. So he positioned himself, all these things allegedly, so he, the lawsuit has since been settled, but I just wanted to go through the lawsuit, 35 pages. I just wanted to see, what was actually in this lawsuit, since I am definitely working on law courses myself, And I do have a history of, law, history of, I guess I would say I have a little law background because I do have my paralegal diploma, and presently I am taking a couple of law classes as well, and I do have my degree in information systems and business administration. So in my business administration major, I did take business law, so I did learn a lot. So let me read on. So that was 35. Let me read this number 36. Mr. Combs also ensured he was intertwined with Miss Ventura's personal and social life. For instance, by inviting himself to Miss Ventura's 21st birthday party in Las Vegas. So he was involved in her personal life as well as her musical career life. He also brought along famous musicians and producers, thereby flaunting his celebrity status and influence in front of a young and impressionable Miss Ventura. Although Miss Combs knew that Miss Ventura was in a relationship at the time, and even though he was publicly in a relationship with Kim Porter, Mr. Combs nevertheless pursued Miss Ventura at an after party in a hotel suite following Miss Ventura's 21st birthday party. So let me move on down. At the Video Music Awards the following day, Miss Ventura's boyfriend at the time joined her and Mr. Combs at a table at the award ceremony. Mr. Combs became angry, telling Miss Ventura that the invitation to the award ceremony was only for her and not for her significant other. So he began to, show a little jealousy. So part 2, Mr. Combs lures Miss Ventura into a relationship. So even though she was dealing with somebody, she already was in a relationship, and he was in a relationship with another young lady. And she was in a relationship, but he still pursued her. So they both were in a relationship with other people at the time that she signed with his label. Mr. Combs lures Miss Ventura into a relationship. Despite her clear rejection of Mr. Combs' advances, Mr. Combs continued to demand Miss Ventura spend time with him, including for a weekend at Mr. Combs' residence in Miami and for nights out in New York City. On one particular night around September 2007, Mr. Combs insisted on taking Miss Ventura out. Miss Ventura, I don't know if this is a misspelling. Miss Ventura says ACQUIESCED. I never heard of this word. Acquiesced, fearing that rejecting Mr. Combs' request would have repercussions for her album deal with Mr. Combs and his company, Bad Boy Records. He handed her a pill and told her to take it. When Miss Ventura asked what the pill was, he dismissed her and told her she would like it. She later learned the pill was ecstasy, something Miss Ventura had never before tried and did not want to try. This was the first time Mr. Combs got Miss Ventura in a different state of mind. Mr. Combs then proceeded to drive recklessly at very high speeds down the West Side Highway of Manhattan. Miss Ventura was very scared but did not dare to object to Mr. Combs, who appeared drunk, high, and agitated. See, I probably wouldn't have even got in the car. Mr. Combs took Miss Ventura to an upscale lounge in downtown Manhattan, where he proceeded to get into an altercation with the security staff, who would not permit Mr. Combs to enter, presumably because he was belligerent. Miss Ventura decided to go home, but for the remainder of the night, Mr. Combs messaged Miss Ventura incessantly complained that he left him high and alone. Complained that he left him high and alone. Must mean that she left him high and alone. Somebody made a mistake. In early fall 2007, Mr. Combs flexed his power and influence when he paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party hosted by Miss Ventura. This fake posting allowed Miss Ventura to have an excuse to go to Miami, Florida, and get her away from her boyfriend by using the guise of a legitimate event she had to attend. So he had some fake flyers put up, set up to, persuade her, to influence her, So it says fake flyers. He flexed his power and influences when he paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party hosted. So in other words, she was hosting a party, but Mr. Combs, he had some fake flyers printed up. So it says Ventura, in other words, just to have an excuse to go to Miami, Florida, and get her away from her boyfriend. So in other words, he wanted an excuse to get her away from her boyfriend, so he had those fake flyers printed up. Number 46, Miss Ventura was uncomfortable with the fake flyer, but because the request to go to Miami was made by the owner of her record label, and because she was scared to go against his wishes and face repercussions to her nascent career, Miss Ventura agreed to join Mr. Combs in Florida. So it was a lot of her agreeing to, just go along with the things that he wanted, her to do. Just go along because she felt that it would impede, I guess, it would set up barriers. He would be able to put barriers up for her career, her music career. In other words, a barrier is something that can stop you from doing something. So in other words, so if she didn't, drink with him or go a place with him or do the things he wanted to do, like he wanted her to cut her hair, different things. So she felt that it would affect her music career. So in other words, it's almost like he was saying, right, if you don't do this and you don't do this because I like it this way, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. If you don't do this, then, I'm not going to further your career, your music career. Mr. Combs exerts control over Miss Ventura's career and personal life. So he had, continued control over her. So this is page 10. From the very start of their relationship, Mr. Combs exerted his power and influence over Miss Ventura. This dynamic was fueled by their nearly 20-year age difference, as well as their relative positions in the entertainment industry, with Mr. Combs considered a music mogul and Miss Ventura at the very start of her career as an entertainer. So he was a music mogul and she was just at the start of her career. So basically, he was in the business for a while. He had several businesses. So he was, he was a music mogul. He knew ins and outs of, in other words, sometimes, if you run in a company, you may know the ins and outs of that field, that venue, that field, or that entity, that niche, You can know the ins and outs. So she didn't know a whole lot. She started out young. So a lot of times, when we are younger, I guess a lot of times when you're young, you're a little naive, and sometimes you listen to what other people, are saying. But as you get older, and then you begin to see things for what it is, you have those experiences. But then at the same time, when you have the right people around you, sometimes even if you're young, that is a must. In other words, if you're young, and say for instance she was 19 when she started in the music industry, but she was 19 and she was so young. But then if she would have had better influences around her, I don't know about her parents or sisters, brothers, or any other family members or friends, they give you the right direction. But if you don't have the right people around you, sometimes it could be devastating. Okay, number 50, Mr. Combs' aggressive and demanding approach to those he worked with made it impossible for anyone to challenge him, and Miss Ventura soon learned that Mr. Combs insisted on blindly loyalty from everyone in his inner circle. Although Miss Ventura had saved up some earnings from her young modeling career, Mr. Combs' ostentatious display of wealth was intimidating to her. Mr. Combs paid for things with wads of cash and would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura, "Don't worry about money, I have money." Mr. Combs expense lavish vacations for him and Miss Ventura, purchased a car for her, paid for her apartment, and provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing. Around 2008 and 2009, Mr. Combs began to rent an apartment in Manhattan for Miss Ventura. The apartment by bringing her there along with her parents. Miss Ventura's parents were skeptical of the Mogul's displays of wealth, but proud of their daughter's newfound success. So let me go on now. 57, compounding this all-encompassing intrusion into her life, Mr. Combs secured his control over the young and impressionable Miss Ventura by introducing her to a life she never thought and never could imagine. So Mr. Combs first introduced Miss Ventura to opiates. I don't know if there's opiates around 2008, and would often have pills and other things to open, like candy. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs has been addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. So I'm going to read down a little bit because I don't want to make this video too long. But Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationship becomes violent and abusive. What started as a whirlwind of celebrity meetings and drug and alcohol-fueled parties, however, quickly turned frightening and violent. Miss Ventura was also exposed to the intense violence that pervaded Mr. Combs' rise to fame. For example, on one occasion, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura were using together in his home. One of his security staff barged in and announced that Mr. Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel's Drive-In Diner in Los Angeles. Mr. Combs began to get dressed, retrieved multiple from and ran out of the house where he believed Mr. Knight was dining. Miss Ventura became terrified and began to cry. On at least 2 occasions, Mr. Combs demanded that Miss Ventura hold Mr. Combs in her purse. Miss Ventura had no familiarity with and was petrified that the arm would accidentally go off in her purse. There was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to, except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was dangerous. Over the next decade, multiple times each year, Mr. Combs would violently beat Miss Ventura, leaving bruises on her body. After every instance in which he beat Miss Ventura, Mr. Combs uses money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including by hiding Miss Ventura in hotels for days at a time, let her bruises heal. Okay, I'm going to move on down. Let me see. Because it's it was 35 pages. I'm just on 15. Page 15. While in the hotel, she asked to go home to her parents, but Mr. Mr. Combs wouldn't let her leave. She lied to her mother when asked about an online gossip forum that reported the assault. Mr. Combs proceeded to instruct his assistant to purchase excessive amounts of gifts for Miss Ventura, which were delivered to the hotel room where she remained trapped. Miss Ventura was terrified, isolated, and unable to see a pathway out of Mr. Combs' abusive hold on her life. So let me read on down. Mr. Combs forces into, so it's a lot of stuff. I don't want to read everything. Within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with 40-year-old Mr. Combs, the 22-year-old Miss Ventura felt beholden to his whims and demands. While in New York City, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he wanted to engage in called voyeurism. Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if he saw Miss with another. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man to the home in Los Angeles, the man, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura wore masks and ingested in their mouth. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform the man while Mr. Combs watched. He blanked while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to specific acts. The entire encounter lasted multiple days. Mr. Combs began to call the arrangement a FO. He would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO, and Miss Ventura was eventually expected to facilitate the location and the hiring of the workers. So let me move on down, and this is this is just 17. Miss Ventura was eventually instructed to use websites and escort services to find workers to participate in FOs. Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura to search for, So Mr. Combs' assistants would help to set up the FOs, including by setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and, I don't know what that is, baby oil and other items. So let's go to, frequently, her anxiety before an FO would become so great that she would become physically ill, sometimes to the point of vomiting. While kneeling over the toilet, Mr. Combs would shame her into performing for him, eventually forcing her to get up and proceed with the encounter. So, but you know, this is public knowledge, so you can also go and read this if you want. Miss Ventura tried to escape Mr. Combs' abuse. Miss Ventura ran away to stay at Kid Cootie's house to escape Mr. Combs' wrath. Soon thereafter, one of Mr. Combs' staff members told Miss Ventura that he needed to just talk, even though Mr. Combs was enraged. She went to her parents' house in Connecticut, where her mother took pictures of the bruises Mr. Combs had left on Miss Ventura's body. So the mom took pictures and, you know, don't know if she even reported it to the police. But, you know, number 113, Miss Ventura was terrified as she began to fully comprehend what Mr. Combs was both willing and able to do to those he believed had slighted him. Ventura spoke to a popular music manager at an after party in a hotel suite in Las Vegas. Mr. Combs saw her speaking to this manager and sternly told her to step into the bedroom adjoining the suite. In the bedrooms, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura severely. She ran from corner to corner of the room trying to avoid beating and kicking on her. When she tried to lock herself in the bathroom, he pushed through and punched and kicked her while she curled up under the toilet. Her screams were drowned out by the loud music playing in the outside area of the hotel suite. Mr. Combs, head of security and assistants, saw Miss Ventura after the assault, they began to cry. Miss Ventura had two black eyes, a burst and bruised lip, and a huge welt on her forehead. Wow, that's something else. So let me see. It says she spent New Year's Eve with this actor. It says later in 2015, While shooting a movie in Cape Town, South Africa, Ms. Ventura began a flirtatious relationship with an actor. She spent New Year's Eve with this actor. In other words, she shot this movie over in South Africa, ran into this actor, this actor, had a flirtatious relationship with him. She spent New Year's Eve with him, and Mr. Combs found out. So Mr. Combs called the actor and threatened him. The actor received a call Ms. Ventura and tell her, you really need to call Mr. Combs. In or around March 2016, in the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City, Los Angeles, Mr. Combs became extremely intoxicated and punched Ms. Ventura in the face, giving her a black eye. So it's a lot of stuff in this lawsuit. And also he grabbed at her and then took glass vases in the hallway and threw them at her, causing glass to crash around them as she ran to the elevator to escape. She managed to get into the elevator, and when she got to the lobby, quickly took a cab to her apartment. Upon realizing that her running away would cause Mr. Combs to be even angrier with her and completely stuck in his vicious cycle of abuse, Ms. Ventura returned to the hotel with the intention of apologizing for running away from her abuser. When she returned, hotel security staff urged her to get back into a cab and go to her apartment, suggesting that they had seen the security footage showing Mr. Combs beating Ms. Ventura and throwing glass at her in the hotel hallway. So let me move on down. See, this is it's a whole lot. Look, Mr. Combs, so you can see it. So Ventura became desperate to leave Mr. Combs and his abuse of her. She recognized that if she stayed with him, she would never be able to have a successful career or even be physically and mentally safe. Right, because there's a lot of mental anguish, physical abuse, mental abuse. Mr. Combs' abuse of Ms. Ventura has caused her lifelong harm. Yeah, so she probably had to have some type of therapy for a long time. See, to rebuild her life and her career, Ms. Ventura needed to completely reinvent herself. She checked herself into inpatient treatment at a rehabilitation center where she first confronted the extent of the trauma she lived with. She had required extensive therapy and other medical care to recover from Mr. Combs' abuse, and she will forever live with the physical and psychological repercussions of the over a decade of violence, fear, and exploitation she endured. First cause of action. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every allegation in all of the preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. Plaintiff is a victim of within the meaning and is therefore entitled to bring a civil action. The defendant's acts and omissions taken separately and or together as outlined above constitute a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1595, specifically defendant Sean Combs perpetrated Ms. Ventura by requiring her to engage in forced acts in multiple jurisdictions, and all defendants benefited from Mr. Combs' venture by holding Ms. Ventura and artists signed with defendant Bad Boy Records and otherwise employed by other defendant Doe corporations captive to Mr. Combs' demands and desires. At all relevant times, defendants participated in and facilitated the harboring and transportation of plaintiff for purposes of force, induced by force, fraud, and coercion. Second cause of action, violation of the New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking. Plaintiff repeats and reallages each and every allegation in all the preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. Plaintiff is a victim of within the meaning of New York penal law and is therefore entitled to bring a civil action in New York. Third cause of action, violation of the California Trafficking Victims Protection Act, California Civil Code, against all defendants. The defendants' acts and omissions taken separately and or together as outlined above constitute a violation of California Civil Code. Specifically, defendant Sean Combs perpetrated harm Ms. Ventura by requiring her to engage in the state of California, and all defendants benefited from Mr. Combs' venture by holding Ms. Ventura and artists signed with defendant Bad Boy Records and otherwise employed by other defendant dope corporations captive to Mr. Combs' demands and desires. So in other words, so they're looking at Mr. Sean, the defendant Sean Combs, and then they says that they're and all defendants that benefited from Mr. Combs' venture by holding Miss. So all the defendants that held Miss Ventura, Cassie Ventura, and all defendants benefited. They're the ones that benefited from holding her, Miss Ventura, and artists signed with defendant Bad Boy Records and otherwise employed by other defendant dope corporations captive to Mr. Combs' demands and desires. At all relevant times, defendants participated in and facilitated the harboring and transportation of plaintiff for purposes of by force, fraud, and coercion. Let's move on down. The defendant corporations have financially and otherwise benefited as a result of these acts and omission by keeping Mr. Combs, the volatile and explosive owner of the defendant corporations, satisfied. They benefited from facilitating his behavior to the extent it kept the mercurial music mogul happy and kept Ms. Ventura obedient to Mr. Combs and the corporation's interests. Then the fourth cause of action, battery, under the New York law. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegations in all of the preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. So they had the fifth cause of action, the California Abuse and Cover-Up Accountability Act, as a direct and proximate result of defendants' unlawful conduct as alleged here and above. Plaintiff has suffered physical injury, severe emotional distress, and anxiety, humiliation, embarrassment, post-traumatic stress disorder, economic harm, and other consequential damages. Yeah, so she suffered physical injury, severe emotional distress, and anxiety, humiliation, embarrassment, post-traumatic stress disorder, economic harm. So, in other words, economic harm, I guess that had a lot to do with her finances. It harmed her finances. It harmed her, economy. The economy had a lot to do with the finances, the money. So it hindered her from making her money. I guess, her income level increased. It put up a barrier to a whole lot of these things, economic harm, post-traumatic stress disorder, embarrassment, humiliation. So let's go with the sixth cause of action, violation of the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Act, New York City. Plaintiff repeats and alleges each and every allegations in all of the preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. The above described conduct of defendant Mr. Combs, including but not limited to Mr. Combs' repeated physical and sexual assaults of plaintiff in New York City, constitutes a crime of violence and a crime of violence motivated by gender against plaintiff as defined by the New York City VGM VPL. So I don't know what that is, but it's in here somewhere. So we're 32. We had the seventh cause of action, harassment, gender discrimination, hostile work environment under New York State human rights law. Right, a hostile work environment for sure. You're running a corporation, you're a businessman, you're running a business, you created a hostile work environment for Miss Ventura, Miss Cassie Ventura. So a hostile work environment. She couldn't even perform. She couldn't even perform her, in other words, she made this album, and then she had to go to different venues to perform. So she couldn't perform because she was nervous. She was just, all this anxiety built up from being beaten on a daily basis, And so when it was time for her to perform some of her records that she had, that she created, I guess, so when she went to perform, she couldn't even perform right. Anxiety built up. She was nervous, and just, I guess people was noticing that, they probably was noticing that she looked nervous, and she probably wasn't singing right, and the music wasn't sounding good. So, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's unlawful discriminatory conduct in violation of New York City, I guess it's New York SHRL, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer monetary and or economic harm. Yep, monetary and economic harm, for which she is entitled to an award of monetary damages and other relief. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's unlawful discriminatory conduct in violation of the NYSHRL, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer severe mental anguish and emotional distress, for which she is entitled to an award of monetary damages and other relief. So the eighth cause of action, sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and hostile work environment under New York City Human Rights Law, New York City Administrative Code, I guess, 8101. So that is the number 33. This is number 187, page 34. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's unlawful discriminatory conduct in violation, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer monetary and or economic harm, for which she is entitled to an award of monetary damages and other relief. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's unlawful discriminatory conduct, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer. So in other words, she suffered and she's continuing to suffer. So she's suing for her damages. Defendant's unlawful and discriminatory actions were intentional, done with malice, and or showed a deliberate, willful, wanton, and reckless indifference to plaintiff's rights, for which plaintiff is entitled to an award of punitive damages, for sure. And then they have prayer for relief. Plaintiff prays judgment be entered in her favor against defendants, and each of them as follows. For money judgment representing compensatory damages, including consequential damages, lost wages, earning, and all other sums of money together with interest on these amounts according to proof. For money judgment for mental pain, punitive and exemplary damages according to proof, attorney's fees and costs, excuse me, for prejudgment and post-judgment interest, and for such other and further relief as a court may deem just and proper. So this is the full lawsuit in New York. So, check it out. But I tried to pick out most of the important points. So this is, so this is the full lawsuit. So now let me go to, let me go to the Let me read something from the settlement of the lawsuit. So we're looking at, not gonna make this video too much longer, but this is Cassie Ventura news. News about Cassie Ventura. So who's Cassie Ventura? A rapper, music mogul. Cassie Ventura, the rapper and music mogul, is being accused of. So I want to have to read. Don't want to have to read that. Cassie Ventura reaches settlement. Cassie Ventura reaches settlement in a lawsuit alleging So Cassie Ventura, they reached a lawsuit settlement. So let's go here. So singer Cassandra A. Ventura, who performs under the name Cassie, has reached a settlement just one day after bringing a federal lawsuit in New York against musician and entrepreneur Sean Diddy Combs, in which she accused him of physical abuse during their relationship, her attorney confirmed in a statement. I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on terms She said, on terms that I have some level of control. I want to thank my family, fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support, Ventura said in the statement. So she wanted to solve the lawsuit amicably, so I guess she figured if she went, to a court trial, went to court, and it would probably be a long, drawn-out situation. It would be a long, drawn-out situation where, it would be a long, drawn-out situation where you never know, the outcome. No lawyer is ensured an outcome. No lawyer is ensured the outcome, whether it's good or bad, or guilty or innocent. So no lawyer is ensured the outcome. So, to just settle, just to give you, she probably wanted some peace of mind, wanted peace of mind. And because they say a lot of these cases sometimes can last for years, 2-3 years, So she said she wanted to, settle these things amicably, without going through a trial, being stressed out and reliving all the things that she has been through over the 10-year span, over the 10-year period. So, they always like a lot of these pop-ups. So, let me see what else she's saying. However, in a second statement provided to CBS News Saturday, Ben Brafman, an attorney for Combs, said, just so we're clear, a decision to settle a lawsuit, especially in 2023, is in no way an admission of wrongdoing. Mr. Combs' decision to settle the lawsuit does not in any way undermine his flat-out denial of the claims. He is happy they got to a mutual settlement and wishes Ms. Ventura the best. So wishes Ms. Ventura the best. So wishes Ms. Ventura the best. It says the suit leveled multiple allegations against Combs, including that he aped Ventura in her home after she tried to leave him, that he often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, breast lips, black eyes, and bleeding, and that in 2012 he blew up rapper Kid Cudi's car after finding out he was romantically interested in Ventura. A lot of times these pop-ups come up. You know, the pop-ups on your computer. So I have to. I think I'm gonna end this video. Let me go back to let me go to Google. So the lawsuit was settled. Cassie Ventura reached a settlement in a lawsuit. I don't think it's going to tell us how much the lawsuit. So singer Cassie settles lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs. I don't know why they give me all this. I'm trying to find. Hold on, let me go. See, Cassie Ventura reaches settlement and lawsuit alleging ex-boyfriend Sean Diddy Combs. Cassie Ventura settles lawsuit accusing. Sean Diddy Combs is currently embroiled in a shocking lawsuit which has been filed against him by his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. The rapper and music mogul is being accused of. His legal team has strongly denied the claims, calling them offensive and outrageous. So, offensive and outrageous. So he dated her, when he dated in 2005 when she was 19. She was 19. And she said, I love children. I'm trying to get 10, he confessed. Whatever is supposed to happen in the future is going to happen, but that's something that I want. I would only have it with my girl Cassie, of course. Sean Diddy Combs. Sean Diddy Combs' statement of denial. Okay, I didn't see this before, but this is Sean Diddy Combs' statement of denial. Sean's lawyer, Ben Braffman, issued a statement to the outlet that read, Mr. Combs vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Ms. Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. He continued despite withdrawing her initial threat. Ms. Ventura has now resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless and outrageous lies. Baseless and outrageous lies aiming to tarnish Mr. Combs' reputation and seeking a payday. So, in other words, Mr. Combs said, blatant lies. So she was seeking this, punitive damages. After years in silence and darkness, she's finally ready to tell her story. So she faced this abuse, She faced this abuse for 10 years. 10 years she started when she met Mr. Combs. She was 19. I think they say he was 37. So when she met him, she had beliefs. She had beliefs that he was going to expand, I guess I would say, her music career. She had belief that he was going to expand her music career, and so I think she did put out one album. I don't know how many other albums she had, but I know she had put out one, and then she wanted to, she was supposed to go around and, certain venues and then perform certain songs, but since she was being beaten so much, she, when it was time for her to perform in certain venues, she was nervous, anxiety built up in her, and a lot of people noticed that, different people noticed that, her performances were not up to par because she was dealing with so much, these beatings on several occasions. She was dealing with a lot of these beatings. She was dealing with these beatings, and then when it was time for her to perform her songs, she was, she just couldn't do it. In other words, it's like you trying to sing, but you thinking about if you don't perform right, or you thinking about, hey, I just got beat last night, and your performances are not going to be 100% like they would if you, if you were well rested and everything was going good in your life, and then your performances, and you had time to rehearsal, and the performances probably would have came out, better. But just imagine she was being being beaten on occasion, being talked to any kind of way, blacking her eyes and doing different things like that, But so we are just reporting on it. So according to us, it's allegedly, because, we wasn't there, but we're just reporting on the news. So, reporting on the news. And so in other words, she was trying to perform her songs, and then she couldn't perform her songs because she was being beaten so much. Black eyes, being hit in the stomach, She said at one point, she had to run. She was in the bathroom, had to hide under the toilet or something because he was beating her, and she was running from room to room. Not room to room, but running to each area of the room, trying to get away. And but so it's just, I read through the whole 35-page lawsuit, but so then a lot of people were talking about, why would she end the lawsuit? Why would she settle the lawsuit? In my opinion, you can't ask person, why would they do something? I mean, you could ask, but I'm saying if you're not in it, and if you're not in that situation, so it's to each his own, I always say. I guess she didn't want the agony of reliving those moments of abuse. In other words, when you go to trial, they're going to have witnesses on the stand. Did anybody see it? And also, they might have to, question her, cross-examine her. The other side, you have your defense attorneys, and then you have your prosecution attorneys. So they would probably have to, they definitely would have to, cross-examine her, question her, and ask her. But I don't know if they put, because I never really been to a trial like that. So I don't know if they would put the victim, I don't know if they would put the victim on the stand and ask them questions, but in other words, I assume that she would be sitting in the courtroom because it's her lawsuit, and to have to relive all those, times that she was beaten, hurt and beaten and bruised up, and, she probably didn't want to live that. She didn't want to relive that. She wanted to just settle out and be done with it, move on with her life. So I can understand, I can understand that. Wanting to remove all the hurtful things out your memory, as much as possible. So I know she did have to take, I know she had to, endure some therapy, some serious therapy sessions, to try to get back to her usual normal health. So in other words, when you are hurt, and you are, the law. In other words, in the lawsuit, she was hurt, she was battered, she was bruised, she was beaten. So she is entitled to file a lawsuit to seek punitive damages. Punitive damages punishes the defendant. Punishes the defendant, and it serves as a sort of I guess I would say a way. It serves as a way to place the victim back in the same health position that he or she was in before the crime. So in other words, he assaulted her. So this is all still under, at the same time, assault and battery. Because one of my courses we talked about assault and battery. So in other words, the assault is the fear. So when you assault somebody, you put them in fear of apprehension. That's the assault. But, just say, hey, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to bust you in your face, blah, blah, blah. That's the assault. But the battery comes in when the person actually hits you. So I'm not a lawyer, but I did take a business law course, and we did talk about certain crimes, certain law topics, certain crimes. We talked about we talked about civil law, we talked about criminal law, we talked about tort law. So tort law comes under civil law. And so she was, and she is entitled to punitive damages. So in other words, punitive damages that punishes the defendant. In other words, it serves as a way, as I was saying, it serves as I would say one way. It was a big way. It serves as a way to put the defendant, places the victim back in the same health position, or the same position that they was in before the assault, before the crime. So that is, so to settle the lawsuit, is settled. And like I said, she probably just didn't want to have to worry about, she just wanted to, be done with it, because why drag it out for 2-3 more years? And You know, she probably thought about that thing long and hard, talked to her lawyers, and probably said, look, why should I drag this out 2 or 3 years, you know, because that's probably what it was going to end up being, 2 or 3 more years, you know, or maybe another whole year. So why drag it out when you can be done with it, be compensated, you know, get your punitive damages, punitive damages, and get your punitive damages, move on with your life, you know. So she probably still have to be in therapy, so she said she was in therapy. So soon as the incident happened, I guess once she got out, she entered into the therapy programs. So she probably still, like according to the lawsuit, would still need extensive therapy help, you know. But so I'm going to end this video on this note. But so the lawsuit is ended. The lawsuit is settled. So it's settled. And so she settled. She came out. And she came out. I wouldn't say she came out on top, but I would say she came out. She came out okay, and it's best. It benefits her best. It's best. It was, to me, it was best for her. To me, it's best for her to to have done, to have just went on and settled the lawsuit, because yes, better for her. I mean, but so she still probably would never forget what happened to her. Yeah, because she would never forget it. But at least she can move on. And why not? Why keep on living? Why should she want to live through it again, to have to hear? Because in the court of law, they're going to be talking about it, and they're going to be talking about the incidents, all the incidents that she went through abuse. What incident? He did this to me, he did that to me. We was over here, and he yelled, or he hit me in my eye, he blacked my eye, or he knocked me down to the floor. All those incidents will come back to, haunt her. Would come back to her memory. It would be something that she would have to relive, because in the court of law they're going to talk about it. They're going to want to ask her questions. Maybe they want to, if a lawyer puts her on the stand, they're going to want to, because it was supposed to be a jury trial, so they would want to question her, and the prosecution's attorneys would want to cross-examine her. And it would just be something, it'd be probably too much for her to relive, so she probably thought about that. So with her family, with her lawyers, they probably sat down and talked. They had their little conversations, and they probably said, they probably thought about that thing, and they probably said, probably thought about the situation and said, well, you know what, I'll just go ahead, and settle. I mean, because me, if I was in a position that she was in, I probably would have did the same thing. I probably would have, it depends. You never know. To each his own, like I said. You never know how you would treat a thing unless you was in it. Unless you was in it. If you wasn't in it, you're not the person that's involved in it, you really don't know how you would act. But, so I would say in my opinion, I would say that it's something she wanted. So that is what she wanted to do. She wanted to settle, so that's what she did. So that was in the best interest of her. So a lot of people were saying, well, why did she settle? They should have did this and maybe got him in, legal trouble. But this was a civil case. This was not a criminal case. This was a civil lawsuit. So this was a civil lawsuit. It comes under tort law. So tort law, that's when you can sue for money damages. So that's what she did. She, made sure this lawsuit went public. So everybody has it on their YouTube channel. So I said, why not cover it on my channel as well? Shirley TV. But so I am going to close out on this video now. I want to say thanks for joining me. And I'll see you on my next video. So you all have a blessed one. Bye.